First of all, I want to say thank you for everyone who is joining us today for the session. And obviously a big, big thank you to Humaira, Tracy, and Elena to be part of this conversation today. I'm Stephanie. I'm the head of events at VanHack. And this conversation today is going to be about women in leadership and more broadly about diversity and inclusion. So how we can build more diverse teams. So how is everyone today?
Great, thank you.
Great, perfect. So for everyone, if you have any questions, just feel free to write the questions in the chat. I will start with a quick introduction of all of you, and then we start the conversation. So Tracy, she has over 20 years of experience in building and motivating teams to produce high quality technical solutions. She is currently the CIO at Beanworks, as we can see on her shirt. And, and she is a positive and driven leader. We have Humaira here. She is the founder and CEO of Locale. As she mentioned before, she was born in Pakistan. She's all about diversity and inclusion. And she has a mission to empower women to pursue their dreams. Then we have Elena here. She's the VP of engineering at KOHO, and she has over 15 years of experience building new products, driving adoption of new technologies and innovation. Also, she's a member of the Global Community Council for Women in Payments. So thank you, all of you. So let's start into the conversation. I would like to learn a little bit more more about your journey. How did you get where you are today? Maybe which challenges did you need to overcome being a female in tech? So I don't know who would like to start. Maybe Humaira, you would like to be the first one?
Sure, thank you so much for having me. So in terms of my journey, and as you just learned, I'm from Pakistan. I moved to Canada in 2005, so 15 years ago. There have been multiple barriers, including, it was just new to Canada, of course. There is a little bit of the language barrier, as well as, not having a network, just really starting from, the basic level. But with that, I also know, coming from Pakistan, that here in Canada, there have been a lot of amazing opportunities. It's just, you just have to be resilient. You have to really be bold, especially as women. And you have to just own your authentic self. So lots of failures, lots of adversity, but also, just getting out there, networking with people, finding that supportive network, and of women and men has really, really helped me get to where I am today, whether it means sponsorship, sponsorship of Humaira would be a great candidate to speak at this event, or just, again, sharing your journey, mentorship. I have so many mentors, women and men, and providing that relevant guidance has been really instrumental. So being open to listening and learning, it's been quite the journey.
Thank you. It sounds like it. It sounds great. Maybe Tracy, you would like to share a little bit about your own journey.
Yeah, so I started off, I spent a lot of time in university, actually. It took me a little while to figure out what I wanted to do. So I did astronomy and math and physics, and then didn't have a job. So I decided to take computer science, and wow, got a job, which is amazing. But for me, I started off as a software engineer. And then I think, I tend to gravitate toward more of a, wanting to see the big picture. So I spent a lot of time in the details of my work, but I was always thinking what's over there. And then you move into leadership and management. But I think the difference for me really was when I started to take risks with my career. So I think it's always risk reward, right? And I'm pretty comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's something that we all need to be aware of. Like being uncomfortable isn't a bad thing. And I think when you start taking risks, if you fail, you learn. And if you succeed, you succeed, which is great. So I did certainly fail a few times, and it's tough. It's tough the first few times where you take a job and you think you're going to do great, and it doesn't work out. But you always learn something, and I've gone really wide in breadth. So I started writing code, but then I did business development. I worked in a gaming company. I worked at a pretty white collar engineering company where we did space and defense software. So, for me, it's just getting that breadth was really visibility into different ways of working and different teams. And so it just makes you that much better of a leader, because not only are you're able to empathize and really understand what's going on externally. So you just make better business decisions. So my advice to people is, I know it's scary, but take a risk. And if you fail, you'll learn. And if you just pick yourself up and keep moving forward. But if you succeed, wow, what a great opportunity and a great thing for you.
Thank you, Tracy. That sounds the right thing to do. Elena, what would you like to add from your journey?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm also similar to Humaira, is a immigrant. So I came to Canada when I was about 20 from Soviet Union. If anyone remembers what was this country. So country that no longer exists. So I went for a traditional path. So I finished computer science, started as a software engineer, did a lot of coding, technical management, architecture. I think echoing some of the previous comments, I think what I found in my career that in early on career, I was less worried about title and more worried about interesting work I do. So I was lucky enough, I was working in IBM, but I still think it's an amazing company. It's really big, but it has a lot of opportunities. I was able to move every 2-3 years to a different type of role. And that's the time where it's actually provided me comfort. I had some kids, but I also had a maternity leave, but I also was able to do interesting stuff and learn. I think one of the things which I would highlight, be continuous learner. It's more and more important every day as you are, advancing your careers. World changes very quickly today. New technologies, new methods arise very often. So being open and being able to learn is really critical for your success. And then when I hit 40, I say that I had a middle life crisis. So I decided to leave IBM and just pursue, like Tracy said, some, breadth. I wanted to more experience and take some calculated risks. So I think taking risk definitely is important. So I moved and did some blockchain work, cryptocurrencies, all the fun stuff, and then went into a startup world. And now being in the startup world, it's very difficult to figure out. However, I worked for IBM or a bank, because it's definitely different type of environment that's very exciting. One thing which I wanted to echo what Humaira said is about networking. I think key is to network. I spent a lot of my career just being a great employee, working with my team, heads down. But, later in my career, I realized how important and invaluable networking is. It's, those connections you build, and people around you will support you when you fail, will help you to find your next role or provide an advice when you need it. So my advice to invest some time in networking, and because it's really, really important.
Thank you. Talking about networking, how would you recommend should we look for other professionals we can connect with, we can network with, who actually can be supportive in our career, but also in our private life, right? Sometimes to having the support is very, very helpful. So how did you do that? Where did you start?
So I guess, maybe Humaira, go ahead. I'll jump in.
Oh my gosh, I was just going to say, why don't you go first? Definitely, depends on where you are. I mean, right now, it doesn't matter where you're really located. I used a lot of LinkedIn in the beginning. I would reach out to people, and I know it's so hard because, a lot of times LinkedIn has, the requests for sales and stuff like that. I mean, we use it too, but really reach out to people, do your homework, do your research, and really see how they can help you. When you're more mindful with reaching out, you know, as an example, if I had to reach out to Elena, like, how did you build your engineering team, as an example? I could just share, hey, look, we're trying to do the same. I'm having some challenges. I would love to connect with you, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever that is, and be respectful of that time too. If Elena says, sure, I have 30 minutes, make sure it's 30 minutes and you show up with an agenda. So again, being mindful with reach out, a lot of people want to help. And if you definitely have a goal in mind, you can do a lot of great things with, you know, I mean, the social media world is so open for us. We can literally reach out to anybody. So definitely that, but also look up people that you admire and aspire to be, and just follow them. I think even just learning as much as you can about those people and how they got there. And this is a great opportunity to just see that, you know, you can also be what you see. I think that's really important, having the representation role models, and then reach out to those people. There's no harm. Maybe you'll actually hear from them. I've connected with Michelle Romano, Manjit Minhas, like a lot of amazing role models in Canada, just because I reached out. So be bold, be brave, do your research, and be mindful.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I think many times we are just scared a little bit to reach out to someone because we have the fear of rejection, right? But everyone really just would like to help. So I think this is in general. What do you see if we looking specifically now about women? What is a trait what usually holds us back? Or let's put it in the opposite. What is a recommendation you give to women to do to be successful as a leader, besides taking risks, what we heard before, and continuous learning? But is there something where you say, wow, this is something, please women, do that? Please, Tracy.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure what. So I think there's a couple of things. I do think it's unfortunate where we're at now, and hopefully this won't be much longer, but going to networking events is really important. I tend to network in a way that I try to help somebody. So I think the most effective way of making a connection is asking people what you can do for them. And it'll always come back and help you. And if it doesn't matter, because you've helped somebody else. But there's a lot of young women that, and now I have to say young because I feel like I'm getting older, but there's a lot of women that I've helped, you know, over the years that have come back and they've worked for me, or they've set me up with a connection that really helped me out filling up my team. So I think part of networking also is making that connection and seeing how you can help that person. And that woman, if you know they're struggling, or even if you just want to grab a coffee and you know give them some advice. So I think that's important. I think as women in leadership, I think Elena, you said something that resonated with me. You put your head down and you just work, and you think that your work is going to get recognized because you're such a great employee, and you probably are, right? But if you're not, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a game that you have to play. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, you have to get out and you need to start having conversations with people and focusing on building relationships so that they get to know you and they get to see your worth and they see that you're someone that they want to work with, right? So you have to do that at a peer level, and then you have to do that at, you know, with your potential supervisors and people that are in senior leadership roles. So that's a mistake, or I wouldn't even say it's just a lack of, there's a gap of knowledge that I had when I started my career, is I was just working and just expected to be recognized. Everybody else is busy too. So unless you're letting them know who you are, it's tough to be seen. So I would just say, go grab, you know, somebody you want to get to know, or you think is great, or you think could help you, grab a coffee, go for lunch with them. But I also do want to say, you know, if you're in the outside looking in and you're trying to break in, because you do have to form relationships and make those connections, if you just cannot break in, and you've been trying for a long time, you have to move on. If you can't get into that inner circle, if you're not going to get promoted, if you want to move into a leadership position and you're at a company and you just don't think it's possible, go. There's lots of places that, you know, will see your value and see your worth. So don't kill yourself trying to make something happen, force it to happen in a company that you're at. If you've given it everything you can, then think about where you need to go next. So that, because I've done that for a long time, is maybe I'll work a little harder, maybe I'll just show them a little bit more, maybe then it took 2 seconds to meet someone else who said, oh my God, like, you're amazing. I'm going to put you in my, my VP suite. And I was like, great. So that's just my advice. Just make an effort, build relationships. If they're not seeing it, go find someone who believes in you and who's going to support you.
No, I agree with everything you said, Tracy and Humaira. I would add that the one thing which I think holds me back, and I've seen personally that it holds back many women I work with, is this imposter syndrome. So somehow I find women are more prone to doubting ourselves. We always like, am I good enough? And especially, it is tough, especially for engineers working in the male-dominated environment or even the financial services. Like a lot of guys are around, and often guys are a bit more, like kind of know what they want and very bold. And we sometimes are, am I doing good enough? Am I great enough? So I think we should work on it. Know that you are smart. You have to be bold, like Humaira said. And I think if it helps, just create your personal mantra and repeat it on a daily basis when you need it. Like, I'm good and I'm not gonna be afraid to take those chances and demonstrate my value. So.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that, Elena, actually, in terms of the imposter syndrome. We've also learned that over the years about this feeling of not good enough. It's likely because the systems were not designed for women in the workplace. And so when you actually, strive to get to somewhere and you do, it's just like, wow, I don't know as many women in my position as I am. So am I going to be able to make it? Am I going to be able to do a great job? So, the confidence piece just kind of gets to us. And it's that, again, fear of rejection, not seeing enough role models. So now this is what I kind of work with now, is like, be your own role model. Just be that person. I have 2 daughters as well. They're 4 and 6. So I'm constantly thinking about, what kind of representation do we have? And, not seeing enough of, women in especially executive leadership. It's just, how can we amplify that? Even if you see 1 or 2, amplify their voices, so that more, younger generation women can see that. And I think systems will change. It might take longer, but it's not women. It's the systems that have been designed in a way that don't really work for women a lot of times. So I think even having, women in leadership, if you see that, you can tell that there is an opportunity for you in that company to actually get there. So join the companies that have, those leadership representation.
I love it. And actually, this leads to the next topic quite well. So systems or organization might need to change. And if I speak sometimes to employers, I always hear, oh, there's a pipeline problem. We don't have enough women in our pipeline. I even heard once, we are trying really, really hard to find women to join our team, but we are not willing to lower our standards. I would just
what a horrible thing to say.
It is, and I just leave it like this. I'm not sharing what I said after, but so I would just like to hear, what are your thoughts about that, and what actually organizations should do, right? So yeah.
That's, it's funny because I have 2 daughters as well. I have a daughter whose daughters are 7 and 8, and I see it already. Like, I see it at their age. I see it in the toys. I see it in the ways that kids talk to each other in the school grounds. I hear it even in their own like, I see their confidence already starting to waver. Or that's not really for me, or that's a boy thing, which, and boys say, and all parents are freaking out. They're like, where is this coming from, right? So, I know that the funnel is the last stop. Really, you're fun. Like, there's so much upstream that you need to do. So I'm a brownie leader. I volunteer with my kids and Girl Guides, and it's about female empowerment and building confidence and leadership skills. Like, you got to start right from like day one with girls. So like we as women, regardless of whether we're tech leaders or whoever we are, we can contribute to making the world a better place for boys and girls, because boys get to twirl and wear dresses if that's what they want to do. They should feel just as free as girls do to take leadership roles if that's what they want to do. So my suggestion is doing all you can to move upstream. So volunteering, if you have young kids, it's a good opportunity. Go to universities, encourage girls not to, and young women not to drop out. I had a man on my team whose sister was really struggling because she was the only woman in computer science in most of her classes. And she had a really bad interview where the guy was just a jerk to her and she just about had enough. So he asked me to speak to her because he really didn't want her to drop out. And I'm like, still? Like, I've been in this industry for 20 years and it's still going on. And people are still struggling. So I did all I could to encourage her, and I reached out and connected her with my network. But that's just one person, right? And that was something that a brother cared so much about his sister that he reached out to his female leader, right? So like you got to get involved at the university level, encourage women to stay in. But that's if they even decide to take it. There's high school, there's university. And then you have to build out, if you want people to apply and get them in their pipeline, you have to build an environment and get it out, socialize it, that you are, that women are welcome, that not just welcome, but there's equal opportunity and equal pay, which is really important. Like, how many of us have gone to a job and said, I'm going to get the shaft, I know it. I'm going to ask for something that's outrageous, and you still ask for something that's too low. It's just, you have to start way upstream. But if you talk about how do you get people in your pipeline, build an environment and socialize it such that people know that when they come to work for you, they're going to be treated fairly and paid fairly. So I'm going to tell everybody who's on this call, if you want to apply at Beanworks, you're going to get treated fairly and you're going to get paid fairly on my team. And I have systems in place that ensure that. So you cannot possibly say that you're not biased even as a woman, because we were raised in a sexist, racist, homophobic society. That is just the way we were raised. And we're trying to shed that by being aware of the fact that we have this bias and we have to fight against it is the most important thing. So making sure that your interview process has as least bias as it can, that your hiring process does, being aware of that at every step of the way is the most important thing you can do to make sure that you get not just women, but everybody that you want at the table. Like, everybody's welcome at the table when everybody's at the table, right? You show up, and if you see someone like you, there's a place for you. And so I work really hard to make sure that my team looks like that. And I'm always looking for more women. We have a great cultural, diverse team, like from all over the world. Everybody's even different types of thinkers. So we're not just all left wing, we're some right wing in the middle of that's what you need to build a good product, right? So we encourage that and we listen to each other. And there's lots of healthy conflict, but at the end, we come up with a great solution. So sorry, that was a little bit of a speech, but just look, if you want to encourage women, start as early as you can. And for those of us who are professionals, even if you're starting your career, go volunteer at university and give them your advice and your support. Make sure that women don't drop out. Create environments where women can be mothers and dads can be fathers, so that they don't have to leave and miss out on their career opportunities. So I have a whole bunch of other thoughts, but I'm going to let us.
Tracy, I echo everything you have shared. It's a beautiful speech, if I may say so, because it's so true. We see this in the toys that, we go out, and it just makes me livid, because it's like, oh, like NASA t-shirt for boys. And then for the girls, it's just like rainbows and flowers, and it was just fine. But there's no healthy mix, and it's actually my 6-year-old, she came home one day and she's enrolled in a course, because I'm just like, we need to change this. And, she's in karate, she's in her swim club, she went to soccer pre-COVID. And this is actually true. And it just, how does it even happen today where, one day she came home from school and she said, Mommy, only I play soccer. And soccer is not even a big thing. So many girls play soccer. But just the way she said it, and she said, this boy said that it's not for me. And so I don't want to play it. And then, of course, when they go to the stores, they see all these the clothes. She goes, Mommy, but it says boys there. Now, of course, she can read. Boys, so this is for boys, and girls section's here, so this is for me. And it's so hard to break that and to explain on the, on their 6-year-old level that the system is not designed. But yeah, it's hard. And I do believe that it starts very, very young. I actually, in Pakistan, we were 40%. So I also have a background in software engineering, which I conveniently missed. But in Pakistan, we were 40% women, and in my program in software engineering, and a lot of other computer science programs is even higher. There were more women. But when we moved to Canada in Toronto, I was again one of the only one in some of the classes, because I had my credits transferred and I was in the 3rd year, or one of the few ones. And it was incredibly isolating. And I was like, why? Like, Canada? Like, it's so progressive, right? So you would think that there were more opportunities or more women in STEM, and it was actually the opposite. So I dropped out after 8 months of doing that in Toronto. So, and you know what? This is exactly the message that when I go and talk to university students and even college level, and just share, please, I had my reasons of, coming from a new culture. I just didn't see myself in there, so I just dropped out. But please, stay resilient. There are more opportunities, especially when you work in the tech industry as a technical person. And it's really hard. So Tracy absolutely gave me goosebumps, because I was like, wow, it starts very young.
It does.
I wanted to jump in on this topic as well, dear to my heart. So I think I agree with all what you said. I think the challenge is with a pipeline, right? So like to get women to just go, right? But I also think the other challenge is like when women start to have children, this life balance, and I actually see, like it's pretty okay to find junior developers, for example, sometimes intermediate, but as soon as you start thinking, hey, I need senior people, it's like you need to go extra mile to make sure that your teams are balanced, especially on the engineering side, because you get majority of applicants men. And I'm starting to suspect it's not a problem only with availability of those women. Women by nature probably don't really like changing jobs that often, and you need to have something else to attract and let them know that this is available, this is an opportunity, and take a risk, calculated risk, and jump on it. So similar to what Tracy mentioned, we also implemented really great hiring process, non-biased, definitely paid this. This question is not being even asked, how much women paid compared to men, because it's not, gender is definitely not a consideration, and all the diversity factors are there. But I do find that when we are looking for developers, I'm struggling, because I don't see as many women available, and on the other hand, I appreciate that I'm now in a position where I can be creative and encourage my team to look for those who potentially not just so and possibly available, but not considering it for whatever reasons. So anyway, if any of you have any other suggestions to how get those women to move and apply, and just raise your head and look around, because I think there is so many great opportunities and great companies to work with, and we're hiring both front end, back end, and QA, so many different roles. But again, I hope that the women are brave enough to take risks and apply.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Elena. I read that there's 3 reasons women typically leave the tech industry after 7 years for 3 reasons. One is because of the hours. They decide to have families. 2 is the lack of opportunity. They don't get promoted. And 3 is a toxic culture. Those are the 3 reasons why they leave. So you want to keep women around, make sure that you make it, that those 3 issues don't come up in the environment that you create.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually something I want to highlight, what you all are doing, right? If we are talking about motherhood and how you can be a senior leader and still have a family. So what are your organizations specifically do to support this woman? Because as we all just know, and as you mentioned, Tracy, this is many times a challenge. And if I speak with a lot of women, they say, oh, but the company expect me to still work 12 hours and this doesn't balance out, this doesn't work. So what are you specifically doing to support this so we have a welcoming work environment?
You know,
Okay.
go ahead. You go ahead, Humaira. I feel like
I was just going to say we're a smaller team than probably compared to both, Beanworks and KOHO. But one thing that really stands out, we're now 7 people, just about to onboard an 8-person soon. So that's a big milestone for our company. But with that said, I would say leading by example. I think the more women we have, in these roles of like being mothers and leading, a team or a company is really important because, sometimes you just have to go just cater to your kids or for your family. And that's exactly the opportunity to share, look, I'm going to take this time off. Sure, I'm the CEO, I'm doing all this work, but this is important. And making sure that people that we work with, they know that family comes first. That is one of our core values. Family comes first. And leading by example has been really, really amazing. Like I had one of our team members almost just tear up because she was like, I've never heard this from anyone, because she was stressed out. She had to take a day off and she was just really stressed out about getting the work done. And I said, it's paid for. Don't worry about it, because that's what I would want. So I think leading by example, but also making sure that your team feels safe and comfortable with that. And then they come back 10 times full. Like they deliver so much more because they know that they don't want to leave a culture like that. And also having diversity by design, I think it's really important. When I hear of startups, sure, we actually hired someone from VanHack, which was incredible senior female developer. And it's amazing because we can't pay the salaries that bigger companies can. But, going the extra mile, even for startups, I would say get out there, look at opportunities like VanHack, where you may not have that senior leadership pipeline available around you. But if you really build your team with diversity in mind, you will make it happen. We waited for our developer for 4 months, but we did that because that is what we wanted. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Tracy or Elena, would you like to add something?
Well, I can add something small. So I guess it depends on the company. We are growing fast. So like we are at over 120 people now. So, and probably half of it in engineering. So definitely a bit of different environment, but it's there are a couple of small things that we had to do as we're growing. We introduced parental leave. It wasn't like we were a company 2 years ago. We were like, 20 people maybe. Oh. So, and we never had an employee going in parental leave, and then suddenly there's this, girl who wants to have a baby. So what do we do? So you're starting to reinvent and do things that, make sense for your employees. So she came back, she works with us now. She had a year off. So we also have a concept of unlimited PTOs. So ultimately, if you have to take an appointment, take your kids to hospital or take kids are sick and you need to stay home, you can take a time off. We do we have this mantra: work hard, play great, right? So we do expect people to work, and we do expect people to contribute to the best of their ability, right? And not to burn out and take time off when necessary. And going completely remote, it also helps because people now can allocate their times, right? I used to do it a lot when my kids were younger. I would work, normal core hours, then I would spend some time in the evening with my kids, and then I would log in and work again. But you do what's, you try to balance the way, what's good for your family. You try to balance what's good for the work and the environment and I think I want to add to what Tracy and Humaira said. I mean, look for companies who are supportive. When you're applying, talk to them and make clear that it is important to you. Worst comes to where you just don't get that job, right? But it's in the long term, it's better for you because you chose it. You chose a company. You will choose, and the opportunity will come to work for a company which will understand some of the limitations or lifetime events that you have, and will support you along the way.
Yeah, Elena, you're 100% right. I actually made that mistake. After I finished mat leave, so we adopted while I was pregnant, so that's a whole other story, but that was like 2 babies at once kind of thing. And then I came back from mat leave and I took a job that was really interesting and really challenging that didn't even factor in the fact that I had 2 little girls. And so I was, I did that job for 9 months and I had to leave because it just was not the right opportunity for me and my family at that point, right? And for me personally. So you go through different stages of your career and your life. So when you're young, go just gun it, right? Go have fun, work all the time, play all the time, go travel, do all the things you need to do. When you're, you just have to look for the right job at the right time for you as well. You have to factor that in. And so if you do need flexibility, look for that flexible job. And Elena's right. Like I dropped my kids in interviews because you're not technically, they're not supposed to ask. They're not supposed to ask your marital status or whether you have kids because they can, but I drop it in. And if it's an issue and I don't get the job, that's perfectly fine because that's not the right job for me. So I would highly recommend doing that for sure. Yeah. So that was the only thing I wanted to add.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Yeah. Now speaking a little bit more, you were all speaking about the interview process, taking off bias and so on. But I would like to get a little bit more specific, if you don't mind sharing. How is your interview process, or not specifically, but what you do to take this bias out the interview process? And specifically right now, right, everything is remote. So from starting to literally starting to work to the onboarding. So do you feel a difference, or what you do specifically having a virtual interview process? What do you do specifically to feel everyone welcome and equally treated in the interview process?
Oh, I can start, and I'll go quickly. So we have a pretty rigorous process. We follow top grading. So we will ask the same candidates the same questions and look for very specific criteria. So this isn't about whether we liked them, whether we thought they would be a good fit on the team. Like it's not a gut measurement. We try to take the gut out of it as much as we can because people like people who are like them. So, we want to make sure that we like, what kind of answers did they give around this? So we stay away from that. What did you think of them? Do you think they'd be a good to like, how do they answer this question? 1, 2, or 3? How do they, so we're making sure that we're getting the data that we need to make the decision. I know some companies remove names from like their resumes and things. I don't think we're at a place where we need to do that, just because we actually look for diversity and we're like, oh, great, that's even better, as opposed to it being a negative thing. But we actually also then measure them. We have a job family matrix, what we use for engineers and for QA and for like DevOps and everything. And we rank them based on that. So there's a very strict set of criteria for each level that we would say you're at this level if you can do these things, this level you can do these things. This is also how we evaluate and promote. So we will do our best to assess where that person is at what level they're at based on this detail, and then match it against salary survey data that we get every year from BC Tech. So you can submit data to the survey and get this for free. Or you can pay for it a few $1,000s, and then it'll tell you what all the different bands are for all the different levels of engineers, actually across an entire tech company. And so then we use that to match, and you can do it at different percentiles. You could do it an average, 75th percentile, 100 percentile, like I think Amazon's like 150. Startups are probably at the lower end, but at the very least, you can pick 50th percentile and make sure that all your team is aligned with that. And then we offer them that salary to start. And then if they show that they're better than that, like we brought on a QA quality software engineer who's fantastic, who's knocked it out of the park. She's amazing. And we did our evaluations at the end of the year and she's way underpaid. And so it's really easy to give her a 20% increase when I use this data. It's also for me to go to my boss and say, you need to pay these people this amount because this is what the industry is paying and this is what they're worth in the market. So you don't penalize people for loyalty, right? As they stick around, because we get, the job industry, like the technology increases way more than 3 or 4% a year in terms of salary, right? So I just go and say, here's what this woman should be making. This is the level she's at. Give her a 20% salary increase. And that's hard to do without data. So we basically use data. That's the summary. Use data. Don't use your gut. Don't use your, will they be a quote unquote fit on the team? So, I mean, cultural fit's always important, obviously, but don't go with one guy. Oh, I don't really like her, kind of thing.
Yeah, to add to what Tracy was saying, I probably will miss some of them, but what we've done is for the job postings, we try to make a language a bit more neutral, avoid masculine type of wording. We also found interesting that our original postings were very detailed. like specifically, you need this and that and that. And I think what we realize is that many women or minorities do not apply because of a confidence level, imposter syndrome, everything we talked. So we actually made it very light and generic, and we figured that during the process we will find the right set of candidates for different skills. So during the interview process, we like, I agree with Tracy. I don't want completely hiding names because I actually want to bring more diverse, but we have this tech challenge in the process, and during the tech challenge, when the reviewers get the assignment, they don't have names, so they don't know who it comes from. So at least that becomes a bit more like kind of unbiased decision. And then similar to what Tracy was saying, we also have metrics, competency metrics. So when we do performance evaluations, we're like, hey, here's what junior expectation do you say? And then, of course, during the reviews, we use data as well to compare it to the companies. I'm also curious, like Tracy and Humaira, if you saw it, but I noticed that maybe it's changes this year because of all the companies going remote. We have a lot of US coming here, and there seems to be a bit of skewing of also like what type of salaries people starting to discuss. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I wonder, as we're becoming totally global because of this pandemic, there might be impact on, where you look for people and how much they're paid.
Elena, that really hurts because we live in Victoria, smaller market, war on talent, like literal war. We had 2 male developers last year because, again, there's very few females. But on the flip side, the good news is they are paid very well because everybody wants this, the few females. But what's interesting is it's with the Silicon Valley, everything is so accessible. Everything is remote at this time. So people are looking at the future work, the possibilities, and they're comparing wages from Victoria to that of, San Francisco. And that's what happened. We lost people last year because, actually earlier this year, just because of that. Or like, we can get double the amount. I was like, how? So I think it is a challenge for sure. But with that challenge also comes opportunity, especially with the remote world being open, and you can look for people that that can add to your team. I'm so happy that we have a female developer. I always just worked with male developers, and for me, like a senior developer, right? So it's so amazing, just the perspective, just the vibe, it's the culture. It's just, so I think that there's opportunities for sure, and you look outside of your bubble, but definitely challenges. I've seen that a lot in Victoria here.
That's actually something I want to speak a little bit more in detail about it, since the whole world has changed, right? So actually the challenges and also opportunities the whole remote setting brings us. So of course, as you mentioned, sometimes it's compared with the Bay Area. Well, the salaries are different, as we all know, but it opens up the world from the local talent pool to a global talent pool, what brings, in my opinion, a lot of opportunities. But I want to hear your thoughts about that more a little bit in detail.
Yeah, so I think for us, I think there's a special kind of person who wants to be remote 100% of the time, minus this forced experiment that we're all living, right? This has been a good opportunity for people who maybe aren't as progressively thinking in certain companies of like, oh, my workforce is going to go, they're all going to go to the beach, and they're not going to work. And it's, it's actually been really impressive. My team has done more working remotely during the pandemic than they did in office for a couple of reasons. One, because there's no distractions, and two, because they're an A team and they want us to succeed. So sometimes it's a testament to who you hire, right? I was like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. So your job as a leader is to make sure you keep that cohesiveness when you're all working in different parts of, I would say, Lower Mainland or wherever you may be. But this is gonna be over. This can be over in 6 months, say, right? We've got the vaccine out there, and hopefully we'll be back in the office. Yeah, it's going to be. So then people are going to have to decide where they want to be. Do they want to work remotely? Do they want to be in office? I think that most important thing is, and this has always been important for people in technology, is there's flexibility. So we've said to our team, look, come in, You can be office first, you can be remote first. We want you to come in at least every Friday for the all hands. So everybody has to come in on Fridays to just be part of the team. That's really important for us to keep our culture and our connectiveness up. So I think when things change, we'll see how it all kind of shakes out. I think people are like, this is okay for now because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I personally don't want to work in my room staring at my bed all the time, as you can all see from behind me. I like people and I like to make that connection, and maybe I'm not as productive, but don't lose sight of the value of that, those personal conversations, having the water cooler and the connections and the brainstorming that happens ad hoc, right? But I do know that my engineers have said they've been solicited, obviously, by Silicon Valley, and they're like, I'm like, look, we can't compete with that, but here's what you get here. So my value proposition doesn't include money. My value proposition is, this is the type of work you get to do. This is the environment you get to do it in. You're not in a box. If you run with the ball toward the end zone, I'm not going to tackle you. I'm going to cheer you on. Here's all the opportunities you get. Money, money matters in the sense for I think most people, that they just want to get paid fair. Once that's taken care of and they know that they're getting paid fair, what's the opportunity for me? How do I get to learn? How do I get to grow? If you pay an engineer $200,000 a year and you stifle them, they're moving on. I don't care. Like, I don't see anybody staying in a spot where they get paid ridiculous amounts of money and they sit on there and twiddle their thumbs all day. So if you want to keep people and you want to get good people, make sure your value proposition is such that, it's about learning and cohesiveness and accomplishment and, all of the things that really matter to engineers: autonomy, mastery, right? Sense of purpose. All those things make a difference to people who are working. And just make sure you pay them fair. Like, pay them as much as you can. Obviously, I would pay my engineers top of the market if I could, but I can't. So we're not a startup. We're like close to 80. But we're high growth. So, we're always pinching pennies and not wanting to overspend. But, we pay our engineers fair so that they're like, great, now give me the work. So that's my answer to that. Is there's always going to be someone who pays more. Just make sure you know what it is that's going to keep your people around.
I so agree with what Tracy said. And I think it's all about opportunities that the company offering you to learn, to do something new, to build something exciting. I know some people I have a lot of friends in the industry because, from computer science, you keep them around. So, and some of them are paid very big salaries, but the work they're doing, it's really, really not exciting, and it's really boring, and it's very demotivating. So with that said, I think I recall when I was younger, money was really important to me. It was important at my stage, and it's good for you to admit to yourself, in the stage, for example, money is important. That's what I'm doing, right? Or in some cases, you might decide, I'm able to take a bit of a hit, but it's a longer term opportunity. It helps me to learn, it's do something better, etc. And I've done those type of decisions throughout my career. Sometimes I would take a pay cut to go and grade that. Like a blockchain work, I did a pay cut. I really wanted to work on blockchain. But sometimes it's that work gives you opportunity to learn something new, right? Other times I really chose stability and money, which was with IBM, right? But again, I was able to maneuver and choose the work which really helped me to grow and feel good about myself and learn something new. So.
Just a quick note on that. We also actually heavily last year looked at the prime motivators, right? I mean, it really depends on what stage of your career you're in. Mm-hmm. If you're really young, a 25-year-old or younger than that, and you get a job from Silicon Valley, you might want to take it, so it really depends on where you are and where the opportunities are, and especially for, I think, working parents, it's about the quality of life. It's about doing good work, meaningful work, because we've also heard from people who do get those salaries paid, but also their work just goes to garbage. A lot of times the products never see the end of the day, and never get used. So yeah, it really depends on the prime motivators, and that is something that we really heavily, especially last year, looked at. Okay, what are your prime motivators? Where is the good work? Where is that the flexibility? Where is that other perks? And then also, of course, salary. So if somebody scored 5 on salary, which was high, then just to be mindful. It's not going to be a bias against them, but also be mindful that, you know, if they get an opportunity with a lot higher pay, they're going to move on.
Do you think so? Looking into the future, a lot of companies will stay remote or like a hybrid, or what do you think what is going to happen in the next 6 months?
I think
So
big
maybe-
companies, sorry, go Elena. I think big companies will probably stay.
Yeah, echo what Tracy said. I think, like, personally, I wouldn't choose to work all the time remote. And I think many people on this boat, I would love to have flexibility, work sometimes from home, sometimes meet people and have this vibe, right? So I think when things become normal, we will see some gravitation towards like hybrid modes more. But I think this period definitely was an eye opener. Many people, including banks, were always afraid. How come people are going to work from home? Are they going to work, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, it's where I think working more from home.
I know. What were you worried about?
Yeah. So I think that's alleviated, opens up opportunities. I had an interesting chat recently with my mentor. Like I do like to have a couple of those, and we had an interesting chat talking about the opportunity potentially to work remotely from other places. So let's say in Canada during the winter, maybe you can snowboard and go like somewhere else and work, and during the summer visit some other places. So I think this hybrid mode does open interesting opportunities, which are going to be good for us as human beings. But I don't see that many companies will stay completely remote for, like only remote only.
Yeah, I think big companies like Twitter and Google and Facebook are always looking for people. So they're like, we're 100% remote because, you don't have to, they save money and they just need engineers, right? And developers and tech companies or tech people. So yeah, but I agree. I think we're going that route as well, Elena. We're going to be a hybrid model.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for as well, again, to meet people in person. Well, I just want to be conscious about the time. We have just 5 minutes left. So maybe one last question for the three of you. Is there any advice about all we spoke today you really want to share with us and with future female leaders?
Yeah, I would say, be resilient, be resourceful, because being resourceful is one of the best things that I have found, whether it's, you don't have to know all the answers. And I know this is cliche, but it's so true. You don't have to know all the answers, but you can learn to know where to find those answers and who you can get on board to help you with that. So being determined, but not delusional. I mean, I can go on and on that topic. If something's not working out, you can only be determined to an extent. But yeah, I mean, just be bold, be brave, do not fear failure. If anything, I always say this and believe it so much in my heart that, the fear of regret is going to be a lot bigger than the fear of failure. So, you fail, you learn. I always look at failure as a growth opportunity. And not the same failure over and over, but definitely learn from it, grow from it. But if you don't take those risks and if you don't go for things that you want, you're gonna regret it. So just do it.
Nicely spoken.
Just small addition, like I totally would echo what Huitika just said, but I would also just add, believe in yourself, take calculated risks, which we were talking about, be authentic, delegate. Don't be afraid to delegate. I think sometimes we are afraid to let go. Delegate, trust in other people, and just be yourself. Smile and don't take it. Let it go. Sometimes there are jerks around. Just let it go and focus on the positive.
Maybe a couple of things for me. If you're looking for the right place to work, you're doing the right thing by attending these sessions to find out a little bit more about, who these leaders are and the kinds of environments they make. You can look on Glassdoor. There's lots of places that review places. Go look at people's websites and see kind of what's important to them and what their culture is like. So I think if you're looking for a place to work, that's a good place to start. That just go find your tribe. Go find somewhere that you feel comfortable in, and you know, and give that a start. Now, if you're looking to get promoted or move up into a leadership role, one thing I didn't mention, but is extremely important, and it's the only way that I've been able to move up in my career, is you need a sponsor. You need someone who is at the table for you, who's pounding their fist saying, Tracy needs to be in this room. If we don't have her in this room, we're going to fail, or we're going to be better because she's in this room. When I didn't have a sponsor, when I didn't have somebody at the table that 110% believed that I needed to be there, I never got there. So if you don't have a sponsor in your current company, then you need to create one, or you need to go find one. And so, for example, networking, I did a panel with my current CEO 2.5 years ago. We did a panel, Women in Tech panel, and we looked at each other and I'm like, who are you? And she's like, who are you? And then we kind of made a connection, and she had already had a VP of engineering. I was in another job. And then a year and a half later, we ran into each other at SaaStr, and she said, oh, I just lost my VP of engineering. Do you know anybody? And I was like, I'm kind of looking. And she was like, great. And then I was hired within 3 weeks. So, you know what, and so women bring other women on, but also those connections you made like 4 years ago may pay off now, right? So just keep investing, and you just never know. It's like you can't win if you don't play, so just play as much as you can, and you just never know which connection is going to pay off, right? So my suggestion is just go make sure you find someone who thinks you're awesome, and that's the person you want to be working for.
Thank you. A very, very nice note to finish today's session. So, well, thanks all of you, Tracy, Humaira, Elena, for taking the time today, be here with us and share your knowledge, share your insights. It was a very, very inspiring session for me, and I hope for everyone else, but I saw really, really nice comments added here. So thanks again. And now for everyone else who's joining the networking, please just go to the networking, be yourself. You'll meet wonderful, wonderful leaders, and our team will be at the expo if there are any questions or you need any support on the technical side. Thanks again for being here with me today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It was fun. It was nice to meet you all as well.
Same here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.